June 7, 1944. Normandy, France. Just after dawn, the hedgerows are still wet with morning mist, and the air smells like crushed leaves, cordite, and burned oil. A German Hauptmann steps out from behind a stone farmhouse, hands raised, helmet gone, eyes scanning the field in disbelief. Around him, American infantry fan out, weapons trained, boots sinking into soft earth churned by tracks and shell fire. Behind them sits the reason for his stare. An M4 Sherman tank. Its left track is half blown off. The turret bears a blackened scar where a Panzerfaust struck but failed to penetrate. Smoke curls lazily from the engine deck. By all rights, it should be dead. The German officer lets out a short, humorless laugh. This was supposed to be America's answer? Hours later, stripped of his pistol and rank insignia, he sits on an ammo crate under guard. Another captured officer joins him, an Oberleutnant from a Panzer Grenadier regiment. They glance toward the Sherman again as its crew climbs out, joking, lighting cigarettes, already calling for a recovery vehicle. The Oberleutnant shakes his head. "Diese Blechkiste," he mutters. "This tin can." Among German armored officers, the reputation of the Sherman is already set. They have read the intelligence reports. Thin armor, high silhouette. A gun that struggles against Panthers and Tigers from the front. To them, it is not a predator. It is prey. Back in Germany, panzer crews are trained to respect American numbers, but not their machines. The real threats are British 17-pounders, Soviet T-34s in swarms, and of course, Germany's own heavy cats. The Sherman, by contrast, is something you destroy and move on from. At least, that's the theory. The Hauptmann watches as a U.S. half-track rattles up the lane, towing a cable. A recovery crew jumps down with practiced speed. They don't move like men inspecting a loss. They move like men handling routine maintenance. No ceremony, no delay. The cable is attached. The engine revs. The damaged Sherman lurches forward, track scraping, hull groaning. And then it's moving, dragged back toward the tree line where more American armor waits. Engines idling. The German officer frowns. In his experience, a knocked-out tank stays knocked out. In the Wehrmacht, recovery is slow, dangerous, and often impossible under enemy fire. Spare parts are scarce, fuel scarcer, crews cannibalize wrecks, mechanics improvise. A disabled panzer can sit for days, sometimes weeks, before it ever moves again, if it moves at all. But this Sherman disappears behind the hedgerow, not abandoned, not burned, not marked as a tomb, just removed. Later that afternoon, the prisoners are marched rearward. As they pass through an orchard, the Oberleutnant stops walking. There it is again, the same Sherman. Or at least, it looks like the same one. The scorched mark is still visible. The turret number matches what he remembers. But now the track is whole. The engine hums steadily. A crewman leans against the hull, tightening something with a wrench while another checks the radio. The tank commander notices the Germans staring. He grins. "Back in business," he says casually, as if explaining a delayed truck. The Oberleutnant feels a chill that has nothing to do with the Normandy breeze. This isn't how armored warfare is supposed to feel. In German doctrine, tanks are prized instruments, complex, expensive, irreplaceable. Panthers require careful maintenance. Tigers are engineering marvels that demand constant attention. When one is lost, it is felt. When one breaks down, it becomes a liability. Every panzer commander knows the anxiety of mechanical failure, knows the dread of being immobilized under air attack, knows that a single breakdown can mean abandonment or death. But these American tanks, they don't behave like rare machines. They behave like consumables. That night, the captured officers are held in a temporary enclosure near the beachhead. The distant sound of surf mixes with artillery thumps inland. Liberty ships unload endlessly. Trucks move without lights, guided by MPs with glowing batons. One of the Germans, a major from an armored reconnaissance unit, listens in silence. Finally he speaks. "I destroyed 4 Shermans yesterday," he says. 4 direct hits. No one congratulates him. "They were back this morning," he continues quietly. Not the same ones. But it didn't matter. He rubs his face, exhausted. In Russia, when you destroy tanks, the front breathes. Here, he trails off. Here, the front does not breathe. It tightens. Across the channel, in England, American depots are already preparing replacement. Tanks, engines, tracks, turrets, radios, entire hulls. For every Sherman lost on June 6th, another is already rolling down a ramp somewhere. Its crew trained, its serial number logged, its destination known. The German prisoners don't see that yet. What they see is smaller, closer, more unsettling. They see Shermans that should be dead, coming back. And for the first time, mockery gives way to something else. Not fear, not yet, but doubt. Because if a weapon can be destroyed and return over and over again. June 10th, 1944. 3 miles inland from Omaha Beach. The road is jammed with traffic, not fleeing civilians, not shattered units, but machines, endless columns of them. Trucks nose to tail, half-tracks coughing dust, bulldozers grinding hedgerows flat, and woven through it all, the squat, unmistakable shape of the M4 Sherman. They roll forward in daylight. That alone unsettles the German prisoners watching from the roadside under guard. In France, by 1944, movement like this is usually done at night. Daylight belongs to fighter-bombers, Jabos, thunderbolts, typhoons, screaming down like metal birds of prey. Yet the Americans move anyway. A Feldwebel, formerly a Panther gunner near Caen, counts under his breath as the column passes. He loses track after 60. They're not even spacing them properly, he scoffs weakly. One air attack. But the air attack never comes. The Shermans keep rolling. What the German officers don't know, not yet, is that this road is only one artery. Behind it are dozens more. Temporary ports at the beaches, artificial harbors rising from the sea, pipelines pumping fuel directly from England, repair depots set up almost as soon as the sand is cleared of mines. To the Wehrmacht, logistics has always been a constraint. A constant negotiation with scarcity. Fuel dictates movement. Spare parts dictate survival. Every kilometer advanced stretches supply lines thinner. For the Americans, logistics is not a limitation. It is the weapon. That afternoon, a German major named Karl-Heinz Becker is brought to a divisional interrogation point. He has commanded armor since Poland, France, Russia. He has fought Matildas, Valentine's T-34s. He considers himself experienced enough not to be impressed by novelty. An American intelligence officer pours him coffee. Real coffee. Becker eyes the mug suspiciously, then drinks. The officer asks him about German armor dispositions. Becker answers mechanically. Then, unprompted, he asks a question of his own. How many tanks did you land? The officer smiles politely. Enough, he says. Becker presses. How many were destroyed on the first day? The officer shrugs. Some, not a denial, not an evasion, a dismissal. Becker leans back, studying the man across from him. There is no tension here, no desperation, no sense of a gamble. The Americans don't behave like an army clawing for a foothold. That evening, Becker is moved to a larger holding area. From his wire enclosure, he can see a maintenance park in the distance. Floodlights illuminate rows of Shermans, hoods open, crews and mechanics swarming them like ants. An engine is hoisted out of one hull and lowered into another. Tracks are replaced section by section. A turret ring is adjusted with tools Becker has never seen used in the field. He watches for hours. No shouting, no chaos, just process. In the German army, mechanics are artists, improvisers, keeping aging machines alive with limited means. Here, American mechanics are operators in a system designed to absorb failure. A tank breaks? Fine. There's another engine, another transmission, another hull. The Sherman, Becker realizes, is not meant to survive forever. It is meant to be replaced. This thought unsettles him more than the Tiger losses back east. German heavy tanks are symbols of power, of technological superiority. Losing one feels catastrophic. But the Americans don't seem emotionally invested in individual machines at all. That night, Becker overhears two U.S. mechanics talking. "Third one today," one says, wiping grease from his hands. "Same battalion?" "Yeah, they'll have it back by morning." Back by morning. In Becker's world, that sentence borders on insanity. As days pass, the pattern becomes impossible to ignore. German units report knocking out Shermans again and again. Ambushes in bocage lanes, Pack 40s firing from concealment, Panthers scoring clean kills at range. The reports sound impressive on paper, but the front doesn't move. Instead, it thickens. Where 10 Shermans appear, 20 follow. Where a company is reduced, another rotates in. Losses are acknowledged, logged, replaced, not mourned. German radio traffic begins to change tone. Less triumph, more frustration. A panzer officer reports, "Enemy armor destroyed, but pressure increasing." Another adds, "Enemy attacks resume within hours." This is not how attrition is supposed to work. The doctrine assumes exhaustion, collapse, a thinning enemy. Instead, the Americans seem to grow stronger the more they are hit. Becker sits in captivity, listening to distant gunfire roll steadily eastward. He understands, with growing clarity, that the Sherman's greatest strength is not its gun or its armor. It is its presence. Always there, always returning, always replaced. A tank that refuses to stay dead. And as the Normandy hedgerows begin to fall one by one, German officers are forced to confront a truth more terrifying than any single weapon. They are not fighting better machines. They are fighting a system that does not run out. And once that realization takes hold, the war starts to feel very different. July 18, 1944. East of St. Lo, Operation Cobra is hours away. The night air vibrates with engines, thousands of them, hidden under camouflage nets, tucked behind hedgerows, packed into makeshift motor pools carved from Norman farmland. The ground trembles softly, like an approaching storm that never quite arrives. Oberstleutnant Friedrich Keller stands beside his command half-track, staring into the darkness. He has fought the Americans for over a month now, long enough to stop underestimating them, long enough to stop laughing at their tanks. His regiment has reported destroying 42 Shermans in the last 10 days. It hasn't mattered. Each morning, Keller expects a lull, a pause where the enemy regroups, reconsiders, weakens. Instead, each dawn brings more engines, more radios crackling in English, more armor pushing into the same battered fields. The Sherman doesn't arrive as a single blow. It arrives as pressure, relentless, unemotional. At first light, the sky to the west brightens unnaturally. Not sunrise, bombers. Keller has seen this before. He knows what comes next. The American air assault does not seek targets with elegance. It seeks to overwhelm space itself. The earth begins to shake, then rupture, then vanish. When the bombing lifts, Keller scrambles to reorganize what remains. Lines are broken, communications severed, smoke clings to everything, and through it all, shapes begin to emerge. Shermans. They roll forward in staggered waves, infantry clinging to their hulls, tank commanders half exposed, scanning with binoculars. Some are hit. Flames erupt. Turrets blow. Crews bail out or vanish. And still they come. A Panther engages at 800 meters, scoring 2 kills in rapid succession. The gunner cheers until 3 more Shermans crest the rise. Another pack gun opens fire from concealment, destroying 1 tank, then another. The gun crew barely has time to reload before return fire obliterates their position. The Americans do not pause to admire successes. They flow around losses, absorb them, continue. By mid-morning, Keller's regiment is in full retreat. This is the moment German officers had feared but refused to name. The moment when tactical superiority no longer matters. In the aftermath, Keller is captured near a shattered orchard. His radio smashed, his map case empty. He is escorted past a field littered with burned-out Shermans, blackened hulks, some still smoking. For a brief second, something like satisfaction flickers. Then he sees what's beyond them. A fresh line of tanks, engines running, crews waiting. He exhales slowly. At the prisoner collection point, Keller sits beside other officers. The conversation is subdued. No one boasts, no one exaggerates kills. A major finally speaks. "We are not losing to their tanks," he says. "We are losing to their replacement rate." Heads nod. Another officer adds, "In Russia, we destroyed waves, and they stopped coming. Here, destruction changes nothing." That afternoon, Keller is questioned by an American captain who speaks fluent German. The man is polite, curious. "What do you think of our tanks?" he asks. Keller hesitates. He chooses his words carefully. "As machines," he says, "they are inferior." The captain waits. "But as a force," Keller continues, "they are unstoppable." The captain does not argue. That night, Keller lies awake under a canvas tent. He hears tanks moving, new ones, arriving in the dark. He imagines the factories he has never seen, the assembly lines, the workers finishing a shift, knowing exactly where their product will go. He thinks of Germany's factories, bombed, dispersed, starving for raw materials. The contrast is unbearable. The Sherman, Keller now understands, was never meant to duel Panthers on equal terms. It was designed for something far more dangerous. To keep coming, to die and be replaced without slowing the advance, to turn every German victory into an accounting exercise. One, Germany cannot win. As dawn approaches, Keller closes his eyes. For the first time since 1939, he allows himself to think the unthinkable. This war is already decided, and the Sherman tank, mocked, dismissed, ridiculed, is one of the reasons why. Because a weapon that can be destroyed without consequence is not just a weapon, it is a message. August 25, 1944. Outside Paris. Late afternoon. The road is littered with the wreckage of a retreat that never truly became one. Abandoned trucks, burned fuel bowsers, half-tracks pushed into ditches, stripped of anything useful. The German withdrawal has lost its shape. No longer a maneuver, just a long unraveling. Along the roadside, American Shermans idle in loose formation. Crews relaxed now, helmets off, boots on hulls. Some tanks bear fresh weld marks. Others have mismatched road wheels scavenged from different depots. One has a replacement turret painted a slightly different shade of olive drab. They all run. A captured German general major, Ernst von Riedel, watches from the back of a transport truck. He has commanded armored formations since France in 1940. He remembers the shock of Blitzkrieg, how French units collapsed under speed and coordination. This feels different. There is no cleverness here, no dramatic encirclement worthy of maps and lectures, just endurance. Weeks earlier, von Riedel toured a prisoner-holding area where German officers were briefly allowed to observe. American rear echelon operations. What he saw haunted him more than any battlefield defeat. Rows of tanks under repair. Rows behind them, already repaired. Rows beyond that, brand new. He saw mechanics working in shifts, not exhaustion. He saw spare parts stacked like groceries, engines wrapped in crates, tracks in piles taller than men. An American officer noticed his stare. "Lose a lot of tanks, General?" the man asked, not mocking, just curious. Von Riedel nodded. "Yes?" The officer smiled thinly. "So do we." But the difference was obvious. German tank losses were tragedies. American losses were statistics. Now, as Paris celebrates liberation, von Riedel understands something his reports never fully captured. The Sherman did not win because it was the best tank on the battlefield. It won because it turned war into a math problem. German doctrine prized decisive engagements, moments where skill, firepower, and courage could swing the outcome. But the Americans refused to give those moments weight. Every engagement, no matter how bloody, was folded back into a system that corrected itself. Lose 10 tanks? Replace 15. Lose a battalion? Rotate another in. The Sherman embodied this philosophy perfectly. Simple enough to build fast, reliable enough to move constantly, forgiving enough to be repaired by men with wrenches instead of engineers with blueprints. German officers had mocked its rivets, its height, its thin armor. What they failed to grasp was intent. The Sherman was not built to win duels. It was built to survive a war of factories. In captivity, von Riedel begins writing a memorandum, not for submission, but for clarity. In it, he lists reasons for Germany's defeat: air superiority, fuel shortages, strategic overreach. Enemy armor returned faster than it could be destroyed. Months later, in a POW camp in the United States, he sees them again. Shermans, training units this time, crews practicing gunnery, maintenance drills, new recruits climbing into tanks that smell of fresh paint and oil. The war, for him, is already over. For the American tankers, it is still routine. They joke, they train, they prepare for the next shipment overseas. The Sherman rolls forward one more time, not scarred, not limping, not resurrected, but new. And in that moment, the final truth becomes clear. Germany did not lose to a tank it underestimated. It lost to a tank that refused to stay dead. A tank backed by an economy that treated destruction as inconvenience. A tank that turned every battlefield victory against it into a delay, not a decision. The mockery faded first, then confidence, then hope. By the time German officers understood what the Sherman truly represented, it was already too late. Because you can destroy a machine. You can outgun it. You can even humiliate it in combat. But when that machine keeps coming back, day after day, week after week, victory stops being about skill. It becomes about survival. And in that war, the Sherman was never meant to lose.